Welcome to the AirCon Vault, recordings of the live streams from AirWiggle's audio conference. These are made free thanks to our sponsors: A Sound Effect, Game Audio Learning, Kilohertz, Audio Kinetic, Sound Cuts, Tsugi, Boom Library, Sound Warriors, and AirWiggles, the online home for audio people.
Welcome to my talk. This is motivation, just do the thing. This type of talk is more tailored toward those that are trying to get into the industry and kind of starting out. I just need a little bit of a kickstart into how to approach getting in a job and what to do, because you might be lost. I'm like, I don't know where I am. So it's not as technical as the previous one, which was phenomenal, just to clarify. But yes, motivation, do the thing. Who am I? My name is Lewis. Hello, you might have seen me on AirWiggles. I help out with a few of the stuff behind the scenes, but I'm a freelance sound designer. That's my official job title. I'm also a lo-fi artist. I make lo-fi, particularly of video game soundtracks. I'll plug it all later, but I'm a lo-fi artist. I also teach guitar in my spare time, in the real world, not just the digital world, which is good. AirWiggles helper, as I mentioned. I helped out with the shop. I've helped out with a lot of the stuff that's done behind the scenes. And I'm also a hard worker, which I really hate the phrase hard worker because it's not really a thing. Like, to me, you can't really work harder. It's like you can't type a Word document harder or record a sound harder than everyone else. So it's a little bit weird. So what you can do is invest time, think critically, and attune your mindset to kind of think positive. I got really overly excited about doing these really big slides, and I thought that was a really dramatic, impactful thing to do it. But sorry about that. It's not like that all the way through. But first things first, let's get some common concerns out of the way if you're kind of getting into or starting to get into the industry and you've got these concerns, these worries about kind of moving forward. I'm scared I'm going to fail. Oh, grow up. Literally, you can't fail by doing this and trying to get into the industry. You've already taken the first step into actually your future career, and you've already succeeded in pushing your life in the right direction because you're doing something. You're actively here in this talk, and you're trying to get your mindset in a way that you want to do something better. Also, you're probably an adult or kind of coming into being an adult if you're looking to get into the industry, so kind of start acting like one. I don't have time. Oh no, then make some. You need to learn how to break down your time and maximize the opportunities that you've got. You have more time than you think, and I'll break down how to assess what you've got in terms of time and where you can find spaces and break it down, because you have got time. Even though you might think you've not, there is time there. You just need to find it and use it effectively. I've tried, but something always gets in the way. Stop blaming everyone else. Turn the odds in your favour. You're the only person who can make things happen in your life, and it all kind of starts with you. Instead of blaming others for not giving you a chance or not giving you this and that, you have to do what's in your power to make them take a chance on you. As an example, if you didn't get hired because your show reel didn't stand out, figure it out, fix it. Ask people for their opinion, find out, get feedback from even the interview and say, why was this not standing out to you? What was it that was a bit iffy? If the person didn't like you at the interview, it's kind of a shame, but break it down and figure out why. Were you rude to them, like with or without realising? Did you not come across as a likeable person? You kind of need to break down these things that don't work out for you and analyse and adapt to the scenario and improve. You've got to be critical to yourself and ask why. The whole world isn't really against you. You just need to learn how to twist everything into your favour by being adaptable. So hopefully we've addressed some of the main issues there and some of the concerns. Hopefully they answer some of the worries. But if there's something more in depth for you specifically, I mean, feel free to drop me a DM. I'm happy to listen. Or you can put it in chat. We can try and address it at the end if you really want to. But I mean, my DMs are always welcome if you just want to drop me a line. Feel free to, just put me in the chat if you really want to. Hello, everyone. Now that's out of the way. There's no reason you can't mentally prepare for the future and kind of tune in. Sorry, that was a little bit brutal at the start there. It was just to kind of shock value. Oh my God, this is actually real and happening. But I'm going to try and help you and give you a few ways to kind of get through this now. So, the not so strict guide. It's not strict. This is just kind of a few tools and things that I have used when I've been researching and trying to forge the path to my life. Not all of them are applicable to everyone, but most of them should apply to your career path at some point. To be honest, a lot of these can kind of be applied to like everyday life, like conflict resolution and stuff. It does stretch out quite a bit, so hopefully it'll help you as well. So you want to be motivated and start on a pathway to your end goal, whether it's a job or personal achievement or anything else. So how do you actually start? We've got to ask yourself a few questions. what is your aim? What are your end goals or targets? You need to set yourself something to kind of go for, because otherwise you're just going to be aimless. It's super, super important because it'll help you determine the path that you actually need to take. I'm sorry, Stephen, for the emotional damage. You need to channel the best case scenario that is in your head as well. So you need to think about how happy you'll be when you're in that final position, when you can pitch that perfect moment where you've hit what you wanted to hit. That feeling is something you can't really get anywhere else. You can't get it on TikTok or, eating. I mean, maybe eating a really good cake, but I mean, generally speaking, it's quite difficult to get that feeling. But you have to have a positive mindset, and it's such a good life hack because things just seem to work out better for you. They just seem to work all around because you're not thinking about the negatives. You're kind of focusing on the positives. And when you can brush off the negative kind of downsides to everything, life just seems a little bit easier. It's not, but it makes you think it is. So it just means you're not hesitant to, try new things and jump further than you would if you were kind of apprehensive about this kind of stuff. Hey, Fernando. So imagine you've got a long piece of string and you've got these 2 points here. So you've got point A and point B, and you need to connect the two. But there are going to be some obstacles in the way, such as financial instability, not enough time, lack of knowledge, don't know where to start, all these reasons, which are completely valid reasons for what it's worth. So what we need to do is work out how to weave that string and make our decisions in the future. And it just reminds me of this picture of It's Always Sunny, if you've all seen it, which I love. Anyway, so a couple of questions so there can be a lot of answers, such as like financial gain as to why you're doing this. So the passion of the work could be one of them, like say financial gain, if it's expected from others. The best answer is effectively the one that you deem to be correct. So if you're in it for the money, as an example, just leave, because it's not the industry to do that. Go into like AI and steal creativity that way instead. But ultimately, it's the answer that you want to give for yourself. So you've really got to focus on why you are doing this. That is the most important thing. I'd love to give you the answer for it, but it's something that you need to think about and take time to think about, because it's going to impact the rest of your career in the future. As some examples, you could be in it for creative expressionism. You could be in it to create a body of work that gives emotion to others outside, or you just like to hit things and see what they sound like. That's all fine. It's not a problem to do that. Just write this list down. Once you've written all of these reasons down, as many as you want that you feel comfortable with, it will come in handy, and I'll touch on why a little bit later. So it is worth. It's just worth doing. So write down these reasons. And the biggest question throughout this entire slideshow, really, will they make you happy? It doesn't matter kind of what's happening in the rest of your life. You need to focus on what makes you happy. So are you doing it because you want to, or you have to? Is another question you should ask. But being in this industry, it's so important to have the drive to want to do more. There are a lot of people who are very successful, and these people tend to have to create. They have to have an outlet and have to build up their skills. There's no compromise on it. They kind of feel like they have to do this. Otherwise, they're really unsatisfied. And not to say this is essential, like you don't have to have this, but I feel like we can take some inspiration from that and take that drive and that passion that they live for the craft, put it into our own lives. So what else can you do? So we can do what's called a SWOT analysis. Now, if you're not familiar with what a SWOT analysis is, it's basically breaking it down into strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats within a goal that you have. So as an example with a goal, let's say we wanted to be a radio presenter. Or just within the radio industry, you're not too sure. I mean, when I started out, I didn't know where I wanted to go, and this was one of the genuine pathways I was going to go into before I looked into game audio. So I broke it down into what I kind of wanted to do within radio. So as an example of how this would work, we take our little chart here of bits and pieces, and we write down each one individually. So if I was to do this myself, I'd have written down my strengths. So I can't read that on my slideshow. Give me a second. Okay, there we go. I'm capable in a door, so that's one of my skills. I'm pretty good at finding and retaining information. That's something I've kind of picked up over the years, being on the internet, just searching and retaining information, basically, just reading and learning. I'm pretty confident with the hardware that I'm using. I was kind of playing around with a lot of different bits and pieces of equipment, familiar with connections and stuff. I try to be approachable and likable in my personality, and I've got, at the time, I had X amount of experience in the audio world. So these are things that I personally wrote down. I thought, okay, I'm pretty good at this. I like these types of things. I think these are good for the job role that I want to get into. Now, next part is quite important. Be critical. There's no shame in saying what you're bad at. So for the weaknesses that I wrote, I had no idea what software was using radio. I think I'd heard it on radio that they use something called Genesis. No idea what that is. To this day, I still don't, because I didn't go down this pathway. However, that's one of the things I didn't know. There's also more competition around, so people are going to be better than me. You've got to kind of accept that. That's just life. Sometimes, you might not think you might have the confidence to present, like presenting on radio. And I didn't know what roles were involved in the radio world. This was all just it was a new thing to me, but I wanted to kind of get into it. So highlight those weaknesses. When you can highlight them, you can help craft your path later on. So opportunities. Opportunities would be things like, what can I do to get into radio? What are the pathways I could take? So I knew some people that worked in radio. I knew some people that were kind of in that circles. There were some local radio stations near me. There were some internships I've seen online. All these bits and pieces that could forge a pathway. Same with web radios. I mean, they're kind of low cost and stuff. You just contact them and reach out for more information. And threats. So radio might not pay as well as other careers. I mean, that's just audio in general, am I right? But it'll take a few more years to build up to some of the new major stations as well. And there'll be more qualified people than me, as we mentioned previously. So there's quite a few genuine threats that could be there. So if I was to take this route, I didn't, but we're going to break it down as if we were going down this route. This is applicable to game audio as well. So again, writing all these down and how you address them will help you forge the pathway that's going to be right for you. So all this considered, as I said, don't be afraid to be critical. If you write down all the things that you're bad at, it will be easier for you to get rid of those and be above standard. Rather than aiming to be the best at everything, in my opinion, I think it's better to find out what you're bad at, raise the bar for it so you kind of know most things about it, and then you'll be more adaptable to situations. In my personal opinion, there's a few debates about that, but we won't go into it. It's fine not to be perfect as well, just to clarify. This just goes throughout life. The most important thing is, as long as you strive to be better, you're going to succeed. That's the whole mantra throughout this, is just you've got to succeed. You've got to keep that mindset that you're going to succeed and it'll be fine. So you've got a goal, you've had a breakdown of what you wanted to do in terms of career path. So we need to now make a plan. So take this radio example. Because again, most of you are in game audio, you kind of know roughly how you can get jobs in a few different ways. Let's take the radio example a little bit further. So method one is to reverse engineer the way to the target goal. So let's say we've got where we are now, that's us A, and engineer within a radio station as an example of that's kind of where we're looking to be. So how could someone be an engineer within a radio station? Well, they could have received a promotion from working in a radio company. They might have known someone who helped them at a radio station. They could have been dating the CEO's son or daughter. These are genuine ways that you could get into the industry. So that is how we can get to that point backwards. So we've got all these lined up now. So how could someone get a promotion from working in a radio company? Well, first things first, they need to get a job at that place, right? So they would have applied for a job at the radio station. So that's one link that we can get into there as well. For knowing someone who helped them to work at a radio station, well, how did they meet those people who worked at the radio station? They probably attended networking events, did talks like this, and spoke to people within the community and said, you know what, this might be a nice, helpful connection. Establish a rapport with the person. Don't just go in and go, hi, radio job, please, thank you. Doesn't work like that. There's loads of talks on this week about how not to do that. But just be yourself and just be approachable and build up connections over time. As for dating the CEO's daughter or son, make a good impression. Usually helps. That's usually the best way to approach that one. And if you've made a good impression, you've kind of got the job. So if you want this shortcut way, just find the CEO of Global. I think is it Rupert Murdoch? I don't know if he's alive. I'm not going to go into that. But just date them, but don't do it for the job. Do it because you love the person. Anyway. So apply for a job at a radio station. So how would you get the job in the first place? Well, they might have received an internship and they could have worked until they got a job at this internship. That's a possibility. They could have worked in local radio to build up experience. Those two ways could get a job at a radio station. As for attending network events, as we said previously, messaging other AirWiggles users, Facebook groups, Twitter account, X accounts. I'd get cancelled for that. That's how you can kind of link these two together. So it's all kind of like working backwards from what you're doing. So how would you get an internship? Just find internships near you. I mean, you've got Google. Like, it's 2024. Like, there's so many ways to find these things. You can even reach out to local radio stations if you wanted a more analog approach to all of this. And just look for people that are connected into the industry. And you'll see that slowly all of these points, there's now a rough guideline of what you can do here. And they all start from one of these 3 points. So you can kind of work through whichever one. You can start off doing all 3 of those things, or all 4 if you really wanted to date a daughter or a son. But you can kind of adapt to your plans. Some things might not work out, and that's completely fine. So that's one way to approach it, is kind of work backwards. The other way, which is probably more common, I should have started with this first. I don't know why I did the reverse engineering first, but hey ho, is starting from where you are now. So let's say we are where we are now. Hello, I am here. I'm going to message online radio stations for some guidance. I'm also going to speak to some local radio stations. I'm going to contact people I know. I'm just going to put out as much as I can to show people that I'm interested. And that might even include contacting other radio engineers that are in the industry by Googling them, by speaking to them, meeting them up at events and such. So it all starts off really just speaking and reaching out to people that are in the industry, getting some knowledge. In some cases, let's say you've spoken to some radio engineers and they've given you some advice, it might just lead you straight back to the start. But that's fine because you've learned. You now know a little bit more than you did at the start, and you're going to slowly ramp up and ramp up until you can veer off on one of the pathways and get something slightly better. So let's say we have messaged an online radio station for guidance. Well, what do we think happens next? Bear in mind, this is all kind of hypothetical. It's not going to be exactly as straight cut as this. It's fine that it isn't. The point of this is to get a starting plan so you get the ball rolling. So you message online radio station for guidance, you immerse yourself in the audio community. Similar to AirWiggles, just messaging, keeping in touch with people, build rapport, build relationships. That is networking. It's not this mysterious club. It is just being friendly and wanting people to talk to you. As for speaking to local radio stations, that might lead to getting an internship or experience. The same thing could happen from speaking to people that you know in radio. They might go, you know, we've actually got a role here if you want to just come by and just drop in, and hopefully get an internship that way. So there are a few ways that might lead to an internship, which is, as you'll see in a minute, the kind of crux of most of it. Or one of the cruxes to kind of multiple pathways. If you immerse yourself in the audio community, you might receive an opportunity to work in a studio, similar to the first 2 sections with speaking to local radio stations. It'll just lead into that pathway. An internship might also lead that way too. So that's one crucial way. An internship could also lead to applying to work with other stations because you've got experience. Or it might even lead to you just learning more about radio with your newfound knowledge, which can then take you back to the start with even more knowledge and just slowly bringing up your level and being a better candidate for hiring in the future. So all this being proactive is all sometimes a little bit circular, but it ultimately gives you results at the end. After we've received an opportunity to work in the studio, you're inside the studio. Amazing. We're getting close to being an engineer now. We can speak to engineers, ask them how to be in the position that they're in. How did they do it? Speak to them. It's all just communication. You could also express your passion, show how excited you are about, oh, I love XLR cables. Oh, tell me about ADAT. Said no one ever. But it means you can express your passion and people are like, wow, you really do like Firewire or whatever your passion is in the industry. And people will take note of that and be like, this guy really likes it, or this girl really likes it. Or it could go to something else that you have no idea what is happening. Like it could be something in there that you've never even heard of, and that's fine. You can have this question mark. Same thing can apply from other stations. These things don't have to be, like I said, perfect pathways. So you can also have question marks that kind of lead off to not too sure just yet. So let's say you've spoken to engineers, something might happen. They might say, hey, I know a friend at another radio station. Boom, there you go. There's your job at a radio engineer. Yes, and that is effectively the whole shebang with how you can get from where you are to where you want to be. And just taking those first 4 steps, just reaching out to all those people can spark off 1 or 2 of those. There might be ways that we don't even thought of as well, but just reaching out is also a great thing. And then it's always sunny with a silly sound effect. These can be wrong. It is not important. It's just a placeholder for where you want to be. It's just a place that you can aim for and then just commit to and do. As long as you're in the first 2 or 3 steps, you're going to be fine. It won't always be crystal clear and, like I've said, perfect. But the more granular you are, the better, especially for the first few stages, because that'll be your tasks and how to approach things. So we've worked out a plan, but we need to factor in the roadblocks that we said earlier, all this financial stability, not the time and all that kind of stuff. So how do we approach that? So these are all subjective to your circumstances. You're going to have to become familiar with your situation and address the issues as best as you can. I can't do that. I'm not you. The only thing I haven't really covered in this entire talk is the financial instability, because I'm not qualified for that. I'm just a guy who hates noise, makes things sound good. Sound okay. But my advice would be to be proactive and find the best path based on your circumstances. Like, look at your local government bursaries or funds to help you get there. Revise your income and try and find a way to save up enough money so you can eventually make the plunge and commit to it. Or speak to a financial advisor. Like, most banks have got a financial advisor that's free of charge. So reach out to them and just ask them what is the best way to approach this. If you're serious about doing this, you will make these sacrifices and make that commitment. As for the lack of knowledge, you've got Google, and AirWiggles for that matter. There's so much knowledge in there. There's years and years worth of knowledge in there that people can help out with. So just take advantage of it. That's kind of the aim of the game. So we get rid of this line and we go, wee, how fun is that? Anyway, so we've got a plan. We've got this breakdown of what we're actually going to do, and we've got to do it now. That's hard, isn't it? No, it's not. You just kind of got to approach it in the right way. So let's say we have a pathway for the radio route, like we said earlier, we want to tick off. We'll ideally need an action plan or a list of tasks to get these points executed. Once we have this, we can just kind of do them. So how do we make the list? There are a few things to be prepared for this. If you're anything like me, you'll get distracted by the slightest thing. I can't have my phone nearby because I will just go on TikTok forever. So here is how I would approach the focusing side of things. Focus. No sound effect for that one, but it would be cool if it was. First things first, the place. Look at your surroundings. Is it an ideal place to study? Have you got enough space to work efficiently? And is there anything near you that will limit your ability to focus? So for me, there's so many distractions. I mean, in this room here, there's my Nintendo Switch over there. There's my phone here. I've got a bunch of cards that I play with. Don't ask about that. And I get really, really distracted by this. So sometimes when I'm really susceptible to doing that with my own personal work, I'll go out to a coffee shop or a library or just somewhere that is generally quiet and usually cheap or free. So there's also the social expectation to not be there, to be doing work, sorry. Because if you're not doing work and you're just sitting down on TikTok with your laptop out, everyone's do something. So the social pressure to do that as well. Anyway, you can go into any coffee shop, by the way, and just say, can I have a glass of tap water? And they'll go, sure. And then you sit there for 8 hours and then leave. That's fine. They probably won't ask you to leave. They could, but they probably won't. So you can make it affordable. I'll be honest, this entire thing that you're looking at now, all done in a table in Starbucks with a glass of water, because I can't focus in here. Not on the weekends anyway. Stimulus. Do you prefer total silence when you're working, or do you prefer music? And do you have kind of food and drink handy whenever I'm leaving the workspace? For me, I've got a coffee, I've got water, hey, with this enormous cup that we stole from a concert. So try and find the things that stimulate you to work. For me, with music, I can't work in silence. It drives me insane because I get distracted by little hums and a car going by. I'm like a dog. Oh my God. Anyway, I used to have lo-fi Nintendo music. That's my jam. Put that on and I'm just locked in. And coffee and usually some fruit and nuts, but I've not got anything here with me at the minute. So try to find what is focusing. What's a good stimulus for you? What helps you focus and lock in? Time. Now, this is what we mentioned about previously. You've kind of got to make it work for you. So I'll show you my planner with what I do and how my time is kind of broken up. I struggled a lot with time management. In fact, 3 weeks ago, I made this. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong slide. There we go. After seeing it on a bit of piece of paper, there is quite a lot of time that I've got there. It's just kind of making the most of it. So hopefully that's coming up clear on your screens there. I've kind of broken down the sleeping thing because it was just taking up a third of it, because that's what sleeping does. Every evening I'm pretty much free, apart from 1 or 2 things. But most of the time there's a lot of free time there. So it's just kind of allocating what you're going to do and where. For me, weekends are just bliss because there's just so much time. You just need to allocate it in the best way possible for you. This, by the way, just done on Google Sheets. It's not nothing fancy. I literally just typed in 1 o'clock, 1:30, 2 o'clock. I just like dragged it down until it was like the time, and I put the days, and then I just color coded things to make it easy to see. It's not that taxing. It took me like 10 minutes to make. Just to clarify, it can be done. It's not as scary as it looks on the first one. So, remove distractions. Phones, leave them in another room. This, I needed it because I was doing the talk today. This would have been in my bedroom and just out of the way because I get distracted by it so quickly. Games consoles, get away from them. Just, you don't need them. They're not important to you until you've got your free time that you've allocated to it. Bear in mind, I'm not saying work for the rest of like your entire life with every free time you get. Have a social life, have a realistic, expectation of social things. But if you need to focus, just remove the distractions when you need to focus. Your obsession with looking at plugins that you'll never buy. Obviously, I'm the worst for it. I love, and I always go onto their pages, the Good Hurts plugins. I'm going to get a bit sidetracked here, but I love the look of them, and I always think I'll get them one day, and I never do. Anyway, and Do Not Disturb is super important. I've got it on now because I know I'll see one notification, I'll just like, ooh, I forget I'm talking. So if you see any of these in your front room, like in my front room, distraction, it's not optimal. If you're like me, you'll give into TikTok and YouTube and you'll just doom scroll for hours a day. So removing these is super important. As soon as you can't figure out the answer to something, just in general, people usually resort to their comfort zone, which is in my case my phone, because life's easy in there. Content makes itself. It doesn't, provide anything to your life, but it's fun. It's TikTok. Like if you could tell me like the last 5 TikToks that you watched, I'll give you £50. Like without looking up, just if you can tell me, list off exactly which 5. And if you do, you're lying because you don't. Once all these steps have been followed, you'll be in a position to write down the tasks that you need to complete and get through your pathway. So each step doesn't harbour immediate results, like if you're sending off emails and stuff, but you need to be proactive in just doing something. Opportunities won't come to you. You will have to seek them out. For example, the radio career, the set of tasks could be, send 5 emails to radio stations, just asking for some advice. You could create an account on social media that allows you to that caters for people in radio, as an example. You can research some of your weaknesses, like we did in the SWOT analysis. You can break those down and kind of improve your knowledge on those things. They'll all be different depending on the route you take, but ultimately, if you can craft that pathway using critical analysis, the world's your oyster. It really is. Delete League of Legends first rule. That's one for you, Greg, as well. Yeah, card tournaments absolutely take precedent over girlfriend, for sure. Anyway, so it's all well and good thinking, yay, optimism, this is going to be the best thing ever, woo, yay. What do we do when things go wrong? So there are going to be times when you're going to get hit with rejection, and it sucks. It really sucks. Before I started going freelance, I sent out over 100 emails. I did this in my last talk last year, and I just said, like, I sent out all these emails, and it was just rejection. Half the time they just didn't even reply. One of them was like, oh, maybe. And I was like, this is the best thing ever. I'm going to get it. No. That sucks. It's one of those things that happens. So what can you do when this all kind of kicks off and it's not all going to plan? Refer back to your original aim. Those things that we wrote down about what you wanted to do, why you wanted to do, and that thing that ignited that flame in your heart is what you want and have to look back at. That is going to be the thing that will motivate you to go, you know what, this is why I want to do it. I'm going to persevere and I'm going to drive through this because it's so important to me. Are you still happy with your plan? You can change it. If you go through this and you think, you know what, radio isn't really what I wanted to do. It's not what I expected it to be. With those really early morning starts, they're just not suited for me. Just as an example, you might find that with other bits and pieces, but you can change your plan. It's not set in stone. You have free will. You are human. You can change these things. So, are you still happy with that? That's still the most important question. So, do you need to adapt your current pathway? Exactly the same thing. You can change it if you need to. You can make different decisions as you go, provided it leads to the result that brings you the most happiness. Because ultimately, that's what this whole thing's about, just being happy and following your heart and what you want to do. It is a job, sure, but as long as you're happy working, you won't work a day in your life. As a purely hypothetical example about changing your pathway, let's say you don't want to work in Pro Tools because it's really clunky and the video engine uses all your RAM. You can adapt your workflow to move into something like Reaper. It doesn't matter. Like, it's just a pathway that you want to do. I'm only poking fun there. I use both doors. No judgment in either, apart from the memes on filters. But no, there's no problem with either of those. It's just a concept that you can adapt to your pathway. What if I'm getting distracted by this talk? You got me there, Lewis. So this is just a quick quote. I don't know how many of you are familiar with rap, but there's a rapper called Logic. People seem to love him or hate him. I'm a big advocate for him. I think he's great. There's a kind of an excerpt from one of the tracks called Last Call, and it's kind of a paraphrase message. It's basically just saying stop worrying about others and just focus on yourself and your own happiness, because that's the most important thing. I 1,000% would suggest listening to that if you really want to listen to someone's life and then kind of be motivated at the end. It's cool, and it's a pretty good rap song. Yeah, so look back at the why you're doing this list that you wrote at the start. It's probably the main inspiration. Use it as a light at the end of your tunnel. The main thing is that you keep going, and you've just got to persevere with it. Even if the plan changes, just continue to do what makes you happy. And if all that fails, just give up. I'm joking. Don't do that. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Don't just give up. Stay determined. Setbacks are going to happen. This one's for all my Undertale fans out there, by the way. Setbacks are going to happen. It's just inevitable. Like say with the form of rejections and emails, failed interviews, or just not hitting a self-imposed deadline. The first thing to know is that it's inevitable. It will happen. You just need to know how to deal with these things. Okay. Recall the list that you created at the start, as I've kind of gone through already. There are a few ways you can get through these hardships. Recalling the list is the go-to. And reread the notes from when you had the positive mindset, you know, that innocence of this is going to be fantastic, because it will relight the fire for you. Just reread the list and focus on that. Reach out to other people as well. Other people can help out and readjust your vision on why you are doing the things that you want to do. It's super, super important. Perseverance is key. I've mentioned perseverance previously, but it is absolutely essential to working in this industry. Staying focused and keeping the same pace and drive will make you successful. It just will. If you are so determined, people are going to recognise that, and it will shine through in your personality, and you'll be happier for it as well. You'll be glad that you've kind of persevered and stuck through it. Other things you can do is reach out to friends, as I've said previously, and chat to them about it. They'll know you better than you do in some instances, and having an outsider's perspective can highlight some things you might not be able to see because you're clouded by this tunnel. The Undertale song is great. I love the Megalovania. So you can basically reach out to people and get an outsider's perspective on it. Or, as I'm contractually obligated to say, make a post on AirWiggles and let the community help out, because people are super supportive on there. I mean, you can DM me if you're just like, it's not working for me, what can I do? Can you just give me a little bit of a spark or a help out? Yes, we can. There's over 4,000 of us now, so we're all happy to help out. We can do this. We're all a family together. So just reach out, just speak. All this is just speaking, just chat to people. So you might have seen a slide like this one. This is just another bit of a way to kind of approach this. Do you have a problem? No, then don't worry. If you do have a problem, it doesn't matter if you do something about it or not, that you've got your answer. So this is usually used for like anxiety and stuff, but it kind of is applicable to when things just aren't going well for you. So, questions you need to ask yourself. You can essentially extend this idea to your personal issues by asking yourself some questions like, is it within your control? Can you do something about it? And can you avoid it in the future? So let's take the failed interview. Let's say you're going for radio as an example. Is it something in your... so you go for an interview, you didn't get hired. Is it something that's in your control? No, because you don't make the choices. So it's not your choice. So it's like, okay, fine. We can't do anything about that. Can you avoid it? Can you do something about it? No, because the decision's been made. You can grovel and beg, but it'll probably not change the outcome. So don't do that. Can you avoid it in the future? Maybe. If the reasons for the failure are like not having the skill set that was required, or you were stumbling and you were having some difficulty expressing yourself under pressure, then yeah, those are things you can work on. Going back to what we said at the start, highlighting these weaknesses is the key to improvement. You can find all the weaknesses in your process and just raise up the quality to the standard that you're happy with, and then over time you'll become better. It's just not being afraid of your flaws and trying to better yourself, knowing this information. there's always going to be the next opportunity, provided you persevere. So keep that drive and just keep going with it. There will always be another opportunity. Even when you're midway through, the steps will still apply. So realign your goals, go through the process again until you either attain them or switch to another goal. And believe. This is a Ted Lasso reference for those Ted Lasso hardcore fans out there. It's not even hardcore, it's like quite a big thing in the show. A little bit of belief goes a long way. These steps will be a massive improvement over doing nothing. So the fact you're in this talk anyway is already a massive thing. So just being here is a massive improvement automatically. Once you get into the habit of doing this and you just rinse and repeat this process and you try again, you repeat, you try again, you adapt, you learn. It's just an endless cycle of learning and acting and working through that, and then learning and then trying again and learning and trying again. And I can promise you, even if you don't kind of get a job immediately after the first time, you'll be a better person from it the first time round. And then the next time round, and the next time round, you might get the job. It'll just be a cycle. And as long as you stick with that cycle, you will get a job. I'm pretty certain of that. You've just kind of got to highlight the flaws and just bring them all up. That's the way I would approach it personally. Anyway, that's my talk. Thank you for listening. If you like this, there are some really cool talks coming up here. These are the ones that are kind of tailored towards those that are kind of looking to get into the industry that's still a bit unsure. Hopefully this has sparked a bit of a fire once you've written down your game plans and stuff like that. These are the ones that I've handpicked. Oh, sorry, I need to spin this as well. Look at this. Wee. Shout out. But yes, thank you for listening. If there are any questions, I'm just going to go through the chat because I've been slowly back and forthing. I cannot fixate on two things at once. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat now. I really appreciate that. Or DM me, just reach out to me. I'll happily give you my time and try and help you out as best I can. Just have a Sigma grind set. Literally it. That's all you need. Yeah, so if I don't know if Lewis or Greg can just put their questions at the bottom that I may have missed. You're very welcome, guys. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you got a little bit of a kick in your heel or whatever the phrase is. I hope you enjoyed the memes as well. That's my personal thing. Lewis Paul talks about audio Pro Tools problems mentioned. Yeah, standard. Changing from linear to non-linear sound. And, oh, okay. After 20 years. That's a big change. That is a big change. But, I mean, you've got a hell of a lot of experience there, so it should be hopefully not too jarring. But, yeah. So, like I say, reach out to me on AirWiggles. That was a great job. How old are you? Weird. I'm 27. It's not weird, don't worry. I'm 27. Moving from film to gaming after 20 years. Any advice? I mean, it depends on what area you're looking at. If it's composition, as an example, think in layers. Stop thinking linearly. It's a very, very different way to approach it. Just the whole linear to interactivity is a big thing to look into. There is a talk specifically on video games. I'm going to see if I can get that linked. I'll put that in the Hangout space for you there, Gregory. Cool, lovely. Well, moving from web development to sound designer, I don't know anything about web development. Microphones probably be a good place to start. Cool. I'm going to leave this now because I am conscious of time and such, and there's other talks. But thank you so much for tuning in. Reach out to me on AirWiggles, pop it in the Hangout chat. I'll be in there for the next half an hour or so. Feel free to ask me any questions. Awesome. Bye, everyone.